Hey, Big V here, Verl Workman. Today we're talking teams and we're talking about whether or not now is a good time to buy or not to buy real estate. So many people are with increasing interest rates, with inflation on the rise, with all of the things that are happening in the marketplace and being in the middle of an election year. What happens is there's confusion. When people are confused and they're not sure what to do, it causes them to step back, to pull back instead of engage. As a real estate professional and somebody who's on a team, we have a unique ability to use the threats in the marketplace to communicate to our consumers to help them make better decisions and move them from feeling stuck and frustrated to moving forward with right content and information. So let's talk about this module called to buy or not to buy. And it's an entire system. Now, as you listen to this video, if you'd like, I will give you the shift module to buy or not to buy. I'm going to give you all of the calculators. I'm going to give you the story, the scripts, and the dialogues that you need to help people make the right decisions. Remember, it's about serving, not selling. And so it's about understanding client situation, whether or not it makes more sense for them to pay rent. Oftentimes you'll come across a client. I'm going to just kind of tell you a story. Eduardo was an agent for like 6 years. And for 6 years, he did a really good job of helping buyers and sellers. But in the last 6 years, it's been easy. It's been a activity-based market. If you showed up, you could sell houses. Well, all of a sudden, there's interest rates and inflation and all the things that are going on in the marketplace, and clients started pulling back. And he found himself really struggling to find the next sale or transaction. So Eduardo started listening to what his people were saying, and they were saying that they were discouraged. And he wondered how to advise his clients going forward. And so he decided that he was going to look at the calculation and really figure out the math of whether or not it made sense to buy or to rent. And what he learned is with his very first client, he learned that they would save $17,000 a year by buying instead of renting, even with increased interest rates. So how did he get there? You begin by establishing and understanding the pros and cons of renting versus buying. I'm going to give you some of the pros. So some of the pros of renting is the landlord takes care of the repairs. When you're not the homeowner gets to take care of it. It's easy to apply and get into a property. You have minimal investment. You don't need 20%. Usually you need first and last month's rent. You have a shorter term commitment. You can go for 6 months or a year or even month to month if you want to. The cons are 100% of the rent goes directly to the landlord and you're not building any equity. Once you pay it, it's gone. I'd like to think of rent as taking your cash and flushing it down the toilet. Now, the benefit from that is you get to live in the home, but there's no equity being built and there's no return on that investment. You can't make any physical changes to the property. Usually when you're renting, you don't get to improve the property or paint it the colors you want. You don't get to change the garden or the way that the landscaping works. Typically over time, the rent increases. And so as things go up, the landlord increases rent. There's no tax savings to renting. You can't write off the interest rate, and you don't get to choose your neighbors. And what I mean by that is you don't get to choose where you want to live as much as when you're buying a home long term. So let's talk about some of the cons or some of the pros of owning. Some of the pros of owning are these. Each payment builds wealth over time. You're paying off a portion of the principal. You have freedom to make physical changes to the property. You get to make it yours inside and outside. And whatever you want to do something weird, you can do something weird with it. If you want to be creative or eclectic, you have that free agency to be able to do that. Your monthly mortgage payment is fixed. You know what your payment's going to be and you can budget because it's not going to go up and down with the market. You're paying down your own mortgage balance. There's tremendous tax advantages to buying. There's possible additional rental income if you bought a residential property. Of course, the downside of buying is you have to have a little bit more money to put down and you have to pay for your own costs and you have to do your own renovations and it's a long-term commitment. So what I would like to do is I want you to think about and consider some of these points. In this system, I'm going to give you this calculator where you can plug in all of the information that are variables that will calculate whether or not it makes more sense for you to rent versus own. Here's some of the things you should consider. So we look at the marginal tax rate. What's your tax rate? We look at your estimated appreciation, how much homes go up in your area per year, the estimated purchase price of the home you're looking at. In this case, I'm going to use 25% tax rate, 3% annual appreciation, a $400,000 purchase price, a down payment of $40,000, the estimated closing costs around $9,000. I'm going to put in your monthly rent, what it would cost me to rent. I'm spending about $2,800 a month, so $33,600 is my annual rent. My rental insurance premium, so I want all of my cost of renting, and then say, okay, your cost of buying. what is my loan amount? So it would be $360,000, 6.5% interest rate on a 30-year note. My mortgage payment would be $2,275. Then I have my taxes and insurance, my annual payments, how much I pay out every year, and I take all of those things. Then I look at the estimated annual appreciation value. I look at the principal reduction every year, and I look at the total appreciation with principal reduction and appreciation. It's about $15,000 a year. And we look at tax adjustments. Now, this is a little bit complex, and I encourage you to get advice from a tax advisor or from your accountant, but these are the basic things. The tax savings on interest is about $5,800 a year in this scenario. The tax savings on property tax is about $1,250. The tax savings on your mortgage insurance is $441. So your total tax adjustment, so the amount you save, is over $7,000. The annual after-tax cost of home ownership is $33,000. Once we itemize those things, it costs you much more annually to rent than it does to buy. When you rent, you lose $16,000, $651 a year negative, instead of buying and paying the interest rates at today's rate. In this particular case, when we net everything out, you end up going in the hole about $10,000 every single year to rent instead of buy. When you have all the data, you have all the information, you put it in the calculator, what happens is it gives you an analytical approach to do rent versus own. I'm going to give you the to buy or not to buy system. I'm going to give you the calculator where you can download it. I'm going to give you a script where you can role play it with your clients. If you're a consumer and you're wanting to buy or sell a home, then simply send an email to coach@workmansuccess.com and let me connect you with a real estate agent in your area that can take you through this process and help you determine whether or not it makes sense to buy or sell a home. We're here to serve. We want to help you, and we want you to have an agent that understands how to serve their client regardless of opportunity and put you as a consumer in the best position to buy. So as you're building your team, as you're serving your consumers, make sure that you have the right information and turn the threat of high interest rates and increased inflation into an opportunity to market and offer your services to our clients that are stepping on the sidelines, wondering if they should engage, and let's help more people realize the dream of home ownership.